Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about my ranking of the Gale Weathers trope in the Scream franchise. So, who is, the best Gale Weathers knockoff? For the most part, there's only one Gale Weathers. Gale Weathers is a very unique character in the Scream franchise, similar to that of Dewey. Normally, there's really only one. And with all the movies and the television show seasons and stuff, it's hard to find one that is similar to them and stuff. And for the most part, these characters appear in almost every Scream-like movie. Dewey was in 5, and Gale hasn't been in all. She has been in all 7. And so, even though she's been in 7 movies, there are still some characters that are kind of similar to that of Gale. But for the most part, it's a pretty small list, which is why I'm not doing a Dewey knockoff, because that list is even smaller. There's really only one Dewey knockoff, and that's like Judy Hicks. But sometimes you can kind of say that maybe Chad from Scream 6 only is a slight bit like a Dewey, only because he's a little bit more comedic, I guess you could say. But for the most part, he takes on that big brother type role. Man, I can't get my words out for some reason. Like, I'm really pausing a lot and I'm getting stuck on my words. I don't know why. Maybe because I shoot from the hip and I don't read from a script. But like, I'm really getting stuck this time. So anyway. So Dewey is a really teeny tiny list. So there's no point in doing that. And so, but when it comes to Gale, I've been able to find at least 4 that are kind of similar to that of Gale. Now, what makes a good Gale Weathers? Well, Gale Weathers is that co-star of the Scream franchise in the movies that is very, very feisty. She is a arrogant, self-absorbed type person who only thinks about herself for the most part and whatever her end game is. She's always there to get that big scoop. She's always there to be famous, and she's always there to be recognized. As the movie franchise has gone on, for the most part, she still stays the exact same, but she starts to become a little bit more human. She starts to become slightly more nicer, especially when it comes to that of Dewey, because she had a huge crush on him in the beginning of the franchise and later dated him and married him and stuff like that and divorced him. And one of the reasons why, of course, they got divorced is because the couple in real life got divorced and everything. And so, and in Scream 5, she becomes a completely different person where she's generally just nice. She's not rude or snappy towards nobody. But then they went and brought her back to her roots in Scream 6 and 7. And that's the thing about her. She is rude. She's nasty rude. She is one of the best mean girls I have ever seen on screen. And it never looks fake. Courtney Cox does an amazing job playing that mean, nasty bee. Because that is who Gale is. She's a nasty bee. She will tell you how it is and she doesn't care. She could care less about getting somebody off death row, as long as it makes her book sales go up high, or her whatever she's reporting on goes up high, or just whatever, saying ratings, money, publicity. That's all she cares about. And she doesn't even care if she hurts people's feelings in her works of art, because she's just there for that kind of clickbait or rage bait type thing, or engagement bait. And not only that, But she always tends to like square off between that and the lead star, the final girl and everything. Like her and Sydney could not get along for the first two movies at all. Then by the third, they started to get closer and stuff. And as every movie went on, they felt like they were sisters, they became friends. But in those first two initial movies, Sydney hated Gale's guts and everything, and Gale could care less. So, and then of course in Scream 6, she was duking it out with that of like Sam and Tara. And then in Scream 7, she pissed Sydney off again. And so Gail is one of those types that where it's like her and the lead star rub each other the wrong way. Also, what makes Gail Gail is that she's always investigating the killer and everything. She wants to find out who it is and stop them. And she wants to stop them from a couple of reasons. One, initially, it's so like she can report on it and become famous. Then it's because so she can write more books and make movies based off her books. But then she wants to find out who the killer is because the killer comes after her and she doesn't want to die. After a while, towards the middle part of the series, then she starts to, well, actually towards the end, she starts to be compassionate and just wants to save people's lives. So she's always investigating who the killer is. And of course, she has that soft spot for Dewey, somebody who is completely out of her league. She's the mean girl and he's the dopey loser guy. And for whatever reason, she just really likes him and stuff. He is her Achilles heel, but that doesn't mean she will stay with him. She wants bigger and better things, and he wants a nice, quiet life. And it's one of those things that cause them to like break up and everything. And that's the thing of who she is. She's like, a businesswoman first and a human second. So when it comes to this list, I had to stop and really think, like, who could be a good Gale candidate? They have to be like rude, a little arrogant, selfish. They have to like square off with the main, main star, the final girl and everything. And they have to have a side of compassion whenever it comes to them wanting to date somebody. So they have to have those type of traits and everything. And these are the only 4 people I could think of. So coming in at the very bottom is Tatum from Scream 7. Now I know what you're saying. Like, how could that be? Now it's a little bit of a stretch, but just let me cook, because I got some pretty good seasoning once you hear my explanation as to why. Seasoning on this. Now, yes, she is the daughter of Sydney. So how can she be similar to Gale? Well, if anything, she's a slightly more similar to that of the actual original Tatum, but just a watered down version. But what makes her very similar to that of Gale is you gotta stop and think about her personality. First things first, she is defiant, just like Gale is. When Sydney tells her to do something, she does the complete opposite. Not to mention, she's always back talking to that of Sydney and stuff, her own mother. Like, Sydney just has her best interest in trying to protect her. But being a stubborn teenager, she is defiant and she is rude to that of her mother. She talks back to her mother. When every time her mother tells her stay put so you can stay safe, She doesn't want to stay there, and she openly is verbally protesting and stuff like that. Or she just straight up like sneaks off and everything, putting herself in harm's way. Very much like Gale. She's hanging out with her friends and the twins, and they're trying to figure out, hey, who the killer is and stuff like that. So, because she has that temperament towards that of the final girl, because she can be rude when she wants to and everything, she has certain slight similarities to that of Gale and everything. Because you need that like antagonist towards that of the main character, that of the final girl. And that is something she was all throughout that movie. She was irritated, she was frustrated because her mom would not tell her things that happened in her past. And that's kind of how Gale gets with Sydney. Gale gets upset when Sydney won't tell her what she wants to do, or better yet, do that interview. You know, like she wore Sydney's jacket and that really triggered Sydney, and she's all like, take it off. But Tatum was pissed off, like, why? Why should I take it off? Why won't you tell me about your past? Well, if she can see her mom is visibly upset, then that should tell her this is triggering a bad emotion. But she don't care because she wants to wear a vintage like jacket and everything. And, you know, and it's that like rudeness and everything that makes me stop to think she also has a bit of Gale in her. Not to mention, like, she badmouthed the original Tatum and stuff. There's also one other thing, and I had it on the tip of my tongue, but oh, the bag. So also with being defiant, like Sydney, she knows her mom has been attacked. At some point in time, another ghost face can show up. So Sydney makes her get like a to-go bag in case, you know, they have to like leave town real fast. Tatum unpacked her bag a long time ago. We don't know exactly when, but you know, the fact is that she was so arrogant and thinking nothing will happen to her, and also wanting to defy her mother, she decided, you know what, I don't need this bag. Next is Tara from that of Scream 6 only. Now, I know what you're saying. Why Tara and everything? Is it Tara or Tara? I forget. Anyway, Tara or Tara. See, they are a completely different person in Scream 6 from that of Scream 5. And so, like in Scream 5, her character was just an ordinary, scared little girl, timid and stuff like that. Like, you know, whenever Ghostface would come around, she would be terrified, you know? And she was just a really sweet, nice person. There was really no edge to her whatsoever. And when Ghostface came around, you know, she was generally like horrified, terrified, you know what I'm saying? And plus, she had that whole inhaler thing because she had a bit of an illness and everything. And but she was also tough. No matter how many times she got stabbed, she would always kick the killer off her or smack him with the phone, which I don't know. They kind of overpowered her a little bit. Getting stabbed that many times, how you going to be able to throw a kick or fight somebody off? You know what I'm saying? But she didn't fight that much. And, you know, as much as I love Jenna Ortega, I rewatched Scream 5 a few nights ago. And, you know, her performance wasn't as great as I thought. I still think it's good and a step up because, you know, she has to prove herself from being a Disney Channel kid. But in Disney Channel, she was better. And in other projects I've seen, she was better too. Here, I don't know what it was. There was something off with her acting in this movie, but it gets better in other movies. Now, the reason why I think she's a good Gale candidate is because I couldn't really think of nobody from Scream 6. But then I stopped and I thought about it. Tara's like whole personality changes in Scream, like, you know, 6. She is tougher. She's all about surviving and everything. She will throw punches, and she threw a punch at Gale. She fights off the killers and everything. She's a lot tougher than what she was in the previous movie because she realizes, holy crap, like if you gotta survive, you gotta fight. But she also doesn't want to be defined by her trauma and everything. She's gonna live her life. And she's gonna live and have as much fun as possible because she realizes, hey, you only got one life to live. And she survived dying and everything, which causes conflict with that of her sister, Sam. Sam has become overly protective and to the point of smothering Tara, and she doesn't like it. If she wants to have a drink, she'll have a drink. If she wants to go to a party, she'll go to a party. If she wants to hook up and have a one-night stand, she's going to hook up and have a one-night stand. And she doesn't want her sister cradling her and stuff. Which, by the way, I'm still going to defend this guy. I don't care what anybody says. The college dude who was drunk, who Tara wanted to have a one-night stand with. I've seen so many people in the comment sections talking about how this dude should have died in the movie because he was going to take advantage of Tara and possibly sexually assault her and everything. No, he was not. First things first, he was drunk. She was completely sober. If anybody was going to take advantage of anybody, it was going to be her taking advantage of him. And so, like, and plus, it was all consensual. She agreed to all this stuff. So I don't understand why everybody thinks he's a horrible person. Now, because Sam and Tara had conflict and everything, this causes Tara to be rude to her sister. Something Gale, because remember, Sam is the final girl, the main star. And so that's a trait that Gale Weathers has. Also, Tara in this movie has a soft spot for her Chad, because they're kind of trying to date. I don't know what they're actually boyfriend and girlfriend. On Wicca fandom, it says they are, but anybody can change that. So I don't believe they are. They just was trying to. They have a thing in this movie, you know what I'm saying? And for the most part, they kind of slightly different. In the fifth movie, he was more of a jock and a little bit arrogant, and you know, now he's playing like that Dewey big brother type role and everything. And you know, so that kind of fits because he was kind of just a slightly bit like the Dewey in Scream 6. But not only that, but like the thing about Gale also is that in those first two movies, she could be a candidate for a ghost face, you know what I'm saying? Because of how she is, you know. And the thing is with Tara is like in the trailer of the sixth movie, which by the way, a correction on like Vince. I said he pulled a knife on Dewey. That's how I remember it, because I try to block out Scream 5. He actually pulled a knife on Chad. See, the reason why I got confused is because it was in the trailer and it's a deleted scene. And the problem with Scream going forward, the last couple of movies, is that when something's in the trailer, it's not always in the movie, it's a deleted scene. And there's a scene with Tara where she's dangling and Sam is trying to like pull her up and they both got attacked by Ghostface, and then all of a sudden Tara gives that smirk. Until this day, fans is all like, what is that smirk about? Well, it was a deleted scene, but it added to the trailer. And so since they added it to the trailer and everything, it never made it to like the movie because it was a deleted scene. And so that made people speculate. They're all like, could she be Ghostface? Could she be the accomplice? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Because she is more feisty in this movie and she's more of a fighter. She's arguing with her sister, and not only that, but what if the whole inhaler thing was a ruse? Like, remember in the fifth movie, Sydney's all like, somebody lured you to that house. Well, who was it? It was Tara and everything. She needed her inhaler. And she knew it was going to be at Amber's house. Amber's one of the killers. And, Richie is the other. And Richie tried to trick Sam and be all like, maybe your sister is the killer. She lured us here and everything. So that's a good candidate for like a ghost face, but of course it never materialized because that was just a deleted scene and we don't know what that smirk was really about. Next is Brooke from Scream the television series. If they were to ever make a Scream television series based on the movie characters, I could so see Gale having the high school plot lines of Brooke. Brooke is a very interesting character. She's rich. Her father's the mayor. She becomes the queen bee at the school. She has a very sassy, bubbly, and also snarky kind of personality. She can go from like being bubbly and nice to rude and snarky in an instant, similar to that of Gale. She has a friend group, which is kind of weird because with her being so rich and so popular and her going to public school and her being snarky at times and kind of have this vixen like persona, it's kind of weird. She hangs out with the group of outsiders that she does, similar to that of Gale. Gale hangs out with people considered to be outsiders. She loves Dewey. She eventually becomes friends with Sydney. She even tolerated Randy in Scream 2, which was kind of interesting because she was never rude to Randy and stuff. She just kind of let him linger around and stuff. And like, that's kind of how Brooke is. But the thing is, she doesn't really be all that rude to like Emma and stuff, but she can be kind of sarcastically or like sassy or a little blunt to that of her friends. She also in the show had a relationship with a teacher and everything. And, Gale, I always wonder what is the age range between her and Dewey, because it always seemed like she was slightly older than that of Dewey. Dewey. And she can be selfish at times and think about herself. And even to the point of trying to make, like, say, like a guy she likes jealous or her boyfriend jealous or whatever. Or even to the point of accusing like her boyfriend of like murders or, that's going around by the new Ghostface. I can so see her be a candidate for like a version of like Gale Weathers, because not only does she have that snarkiness, that mean girl vibe, that queen bee vibe, but she also is really sweet and caring, and she is very loyal to that of her fans. And that's kind of how Gale is over time when she gets to know you and stuff. So it should be no shocker that Jennifer from Scream 3 would be the best version of Gale Weathers. She is literally a clone version of Gale. Because of the simple fact Jennifer, or Judy was her original name, I believe, she was set to play Gale in like Scream, Stab 2 or something like that, or Stab 3, or whichever one it was, I can't remember. I don't know if she's the original Gale or she's the new Gale or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, the actress playing her looks very similar to Courtney Cox. Like, they're both super thin, skinny. They gave her Gale's hairstyle from the first movie. The attitude is spot on. Like, Jennifer's attitude is very snarky, very rude, very self-entitled, very much like that of Gale. She even gets punched in the face, similar to how Gale did in the what was it, first, second, and sixth movie. She also likes Dewey in real life, and of course, Gale likes Dewey and stuff. And it's just, she's so selfish and arrogant. Everything has to revolve around her and whatever it is that she wants. And when she doesn't get her way, she's extremely pissed off. She also tries to figure out and solve the big mystery behind why is the killer leaving behind photos of Maureen Prescott. She is the definitive, new version of Gale, and the best version at that. I mean, she was literally written to be Gale Weathers and everything. I think she even says she's a better Gale Weathers than the original. So yeah, that's my ranking of the best Gale knockoffs and everything. It was a short list and I had to do a little stretching here and there, but I do believe that all these versions are very similar to that of the original Gale Weathers. Now, I might do a video on the best decoy pointless characters in the franchise, but that's going to be a little bit hard because of the simple fact I'm basing this off of the two mean girls in the bathroom from the original Scream movie. And there are a couple of candidates, but when it comes to other movies further along the line, it's kind of hard to figure out because there's always that one, well, actually, there's always those two pointless characters who are just in the movie. And sometimes you might suspect they're Ghostface and sometimes you might. So I have to really think about this list before I do it. Now, in October, I do plan on doing 3 more lists. One list is going to be the best final girl / final guy in the Scream franchise because there is one boy and everything from the television show. I also plan on doing a Ghostface ranking, but I'm going to be doing it a little bit different than everybody else. Except for Scream 3, because there was only one killer, there's always been 2 killers. The mastermind, who barely kills anybody and sometimes disappears from the movie, and then the accomplice who does all the killings. Mostly people like to combine, all the Ghostface and do their list, and they always leave out one in particular, and I wish they would stop leaving this one Ghostface out, even though we briefly saw him and stuff. And so this is why I want to do the mastermind and the accomplice list, but I'll do that for October when it's closer to that of Halloween month. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.